Alright guys, this is not a structured episode like usual. I'm so sick of everything that's playing out over the past couple of months. It's seriously like we bought tickets to this circus show and I didn't buy the goddamn ticket. Okay, so I am so sick of watching this happen. I didn't want to do a structured episode today because I just want to be like, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Let's just go over everything that's been happening because I think what these politicians are failing to actually realise is that Australians are actually struggling so much at the moment. Cost of living, housing shortage, pressure of everything, cultural division. Everything is basically shit. So let's just go over it. Welcome back to the Lunch Show. Alright, guys, let's first start with the fuel crisis. Nobody has been talking about this. Mainstream media basically just fucking forgot that we actually just went through this whole fuel shortage. And now all of these politicians, Albanese, when's the last time he said anything? Also, another point in Albo. Why aren't you talking to the media? Why have I only seen, one interview in the past few weeks that you have done? Talk to media outlets because we actually need to hear from the so-called leader of this country of what direction we are heading in, because people are failing to realize that we don't have enough fuel. Okay, we are still below 40 days of fuel supply. The IEA's international standards is 90 days, so we are still in this crisis, and I would argue that the worst of it is still to come because we have supply chain issues. All right, the trucks will stop because we will run out of fuel. And then the next topic is this war. Okay, Albanese is saying nothing against this global conflict that's happening. I just read an article that Trump called Benjamin Netanyahu, whatever his fucking name is, he said that he was crazy about this escalation that's happening in Iran. So if that war is going to continue, which in my prediction, I think it's only going to end in World War III, or it's going to be a forever war because I just can't see how people are going to get out of this, especially with Israel. They are not going to stop fighting Middle Eastern countries because of the promised land. So they are never going to get out. Therefore, the strait is shut. Well, it's not really shut, it's not closed at all. However, the IRGC is blockading it and the US is blockading it, and there's heaps of conflict happening there. And even if it was open, insurance premiums for the cargo going through is through the roof, so they're not going to be traveling through the strait. So what's going to happen? Singapore's not going to get their crude oil. Australia's not going to get their petrol from Singapore. So I'm just sort of watching this happen and I'm like, guys, there's seriously no reality of us not having an absolute wreckage and shit fight basically in Australia in a couple of months. Because if this war said ended tomorrow, we would still have the ripple effects and the ongoing effects of it. So that's just another point. Like, I don't know why people aren't talking about the fuel crisis anymore. And I mean, we need to get into these Labour politicians. These are the people running the country at the moment. And just embarrassing. Like, with Penny Wong, Tony Burke, Anthony Albanese, I need to ask you a question. If I met you tomorrow, this is the first thing I would say. Do you hate this country? Seriously, do you hate this country? Because you act like you despise us. You are letting in hundreds of thousands of people every single year. So millions of people into our country. Of some, I understand that a lot of people who do immigrate here do, want to assimilate into our culture and do want to be a part of Australia. However, I would say majority do not. And let's just focus in on Tony Burke, because that guy literally makes my skin crawl every single time he says anything. I'm just like, mates, like, you obviously just don't like Australia. Seriously, you are a dickhead. Who are you working for? Because you are in favour of this multiculturalism in our country, which in every other influential Western country, the United States, look at what just unfolded, especially, the end of last year with ICE arrests. Look at what happened there. France, they are in ruins at the moment. England, their culture basically doesn't even exist. They are in absolute destruction of their country. And we can go on, we can list other countries, Sweden, Switzerland, everywhere. Every single Western country basically has never seen multiculturalism work. So first thing, why is Australia continuing to pursue this multiculturalism rhetoric? Why are we continuing to pursue having hundreds of thousands of people into our country, which they are negatively affecting us because of infrastructure, because of housing, because of the strains in our economy? Why is that happening? And further in it, every other country have seen it not work. So why are we not learning from their mistakes? So Tony Burke, every single time you speak about the ISIS brides, every single time you speak about immigration, every single thing you say literally seems like you are acting in a foreign interest. You are acting not for the Australian people. So who are you working for? Also, guys, I just want to go back to this one thing that people always try to hit us with. Multiculturalism is our strength. We've always been a multicultural nation. No. Alright? One, we haven't always been a multicultural nation. And two, how is a nation supposed to move forward when they don't have one shared identity? Let's actually just break it down. What does multiculturalism actually mean? Multiculturalism means that there's multiple cultures. So, how are people supposed to move forward if everyone has a different idea of how the nation should go? It doesn't work. And also, going back to this whole rhetoric of everybody's an immigrant from in Australia at some point, let's cut that out. Let's stop it. Let's actually go back to the fact. When Australia was established, it was English settlers that built this nation. Our system is built by the English, by Britain. Okay, so they were the settlers of this nation. Immigration, you could say, absolutely enriched us. Brilliant, because it did. That's a fact. I'll accept that because it's a fact. They did. However, they did that when the English and when settlers was the overwhelming majority in our country. Therefore, it worked because there was one nation, one shared identity. We all moved forward with enrichment. Okay, so let's stop saying that everybody was an immigrant of this nation and multiculturalism is the way forward in the modern world. It's not. It's never worked. We just listed the countries it didn't work in, and it will never work to move forward because not everybody's on the same page. Alright, guys, let's swing it back to Labour. What's happening right now with this recent federal budget? It's an absolute joke, and it is a destruction of capitalism. The main two things that I just absolutely hate that is going to be implemented because it's going through the Senate at the moment. The Greens want to push it harder, which is an absolute joke. But it's capital gains and negative gearing. Right? Who in their right mind thinks that implementing a scrappy negative gearing will therefore open up the housing for the youth and therefore make it cheaper for people's rents? So stupid. Right? Negative gearing is literally a tax break for landlords. So if they are not receiving that tax break, then they are going to increase their rents. This Labour government just does not have any common sense approach and does not have any logic in their approach either. It's an absolute destruction to capitalism. They are a socialist party, right? And I'm not just saying that. It is literally written in Labour's constitution that they are a socialist party, right? So I don't care what they say they are now. Modern capitalists. You're not. In your roots, in your ideology, you are a socialist party. You will always be a socialist party. I don't care what you say you are now. Because it is seen in this recent federal budget that you still have that rhetoric, right? So the Labour government, you are destroying capitalism in this country. You want this country to be a socialist nation. So if you guys are still voting Labour out there, just know that. Look up their constitution. It literally says socialist beliefs. And another point to add here, the Liberal Party. I don't care who you say you are now. You are the uni party. You are copying One Nation's policies. You are literally telling us conservative Australians whatever we want to hear, which I don't trust. You are just reiterating what we are saying to win over our vote. And I don't trust you because of it. A main reason why I don't trust you is because Angus Taylor voted yes on the ASIO Amendment Bill, and anyone who has taken away our freedom and has taken away our privacy, I do not like, I do not trust. Guys, I'm Australia first, alright? One Nation is the only conservative party in Australia. However, if they are not pushing anything that's not Australia first, I will call them out. I've done it once. I'll do it again. All right? Because if they're not pushing things that are not Australia first, I'm not having a bar of it. However, at the moment, they are the best option for us. They are true conservatives. They say it how it is. But if they slip up, we'll call them out and go from there. But the Libs, you cannot trust them. Please, if you're conservative, do not vote for the Liberal Party. They are the uni party. And guys, look what's happening in the United States at the moment. They are in a conflict. However, they basically the protector of the Western world. But what are they doing? They are America first, alright? Which is rightly so. They should be America first. They are America. Trump does not care about any other allied nations. He is focused inwards. Like I said, rightly so. He's the American president, as he should be. Albo should be doing the same in Australia, as he's the Australian Prime Minister, but that's another conversation. But where does that leave little old Australia? Well, that leaves us to be absolutely stranded because the US is absolutely caught up in another conflict that they're not getting out of anytime soon. So we are literally unprotected on our home front. We literally have our biggest ally caught up in some Middle Eastern conflict. And where does that leave China? Well, that leaves them knocking on our door. But we're going to go over all of that more in depth starting this Thursday. We're launching a 4-part investigative series just digging into actually what is our reality defense wise. How long would we actually last in a conflict? Who absolutely destroyed our national sovereignty and made us dependent on nations like China and the US. We're digging deep into it. We're calling out names. So I'll see you guys on Thursday to launch that investigative series. Now, guys, let's move on to the Australian home front. Let's bring it back home. We need to talk about these hate speech laws. We need to talk about these gun reforms. We need to talk about what happened after Bondi. After Bondi, the tragic event that took place on Bondi Beach from an extremist. Okay, we have an extremist problem in this country that needs to be cracked down on. ASIO, you absolutely failed. It's coming out now that you had a miscommunication failure. Pathetic. Government, you absolutely failed. And you are continuing to. Okay, that is the problem. Guns are not the problem. Speech is not the problem. Alright? You rush through the hate speech laws, which is so vague, anyone with a political opinion that the government doesn't like can get done with them. These gun reforms, totalitarian regime. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at here. Totalitarian regime. These gun reforms are disarming the public. What happens when a government disarms the public? Well, we can't defend ourselves, right? I literally, some days, absolutely envy America. I would not want to live there. I think Australia is the best country on earth. However, I envy that their citizens actually have civil liberties. They have the First Amendment, they have the Second Amendment. They have the right to bear arms, they have the right to free speech. If citizens do not have the right to free speech, like we're seeing now, we don't have rights. Guys, we literally do not have rights. Okay? And if citizens don't have the right to free speech, then we can't speak our mind. We can't say our opinion for the fear of someone maybe thinking that it's some sort of an offense. And if we can't say that, then speech stagnates. We stop speaking. And when we stop speaking, we stop living in a democracy. So I'm so sick of these hate speech laws, and how we fix it is getting one nation elected in 2028. All right, that's the only way. If we don't steer this boat in a different direction, we are going to end up as a third world country that has no rights. If we do not get one nation elected in 2028 and get free speech and written in our constitution, I do not want to live in a country like this. Okay? And that's just the truth. And that's why we need to get into the ADF right now. So, broke today, right? That the ADF is now allowing transgender people to basically say, you know, if you're a woman, you say that you are a man, and you have to take the male fitness test, vice versa. Let's go with that. America has absolutely banned it. They've now taken up that it was illegal, that they banned it. However, that's another conversation for them, but they banned it at the start, right? We need to do the same. How is it fair for a biological male to then say that he's a female and undertake the fitness test of the female? Obviously, he's going to do better results than an actual biological female, isn't he? So, to all the ADF women right now serving, how does it feel that you are competing against a biological male and them yielding better results than you because of an unfair advantage? How does it feel? Also, government, ADF, instead of widening the barriers of entry, how about you actually listen to the majority of people in this country, and then you'll have a patriotic youth that actually wants to serve to defend it? All right? That's what you should be doing. And also, can we just actually go back and go, right, the ADF makes soldiers to defend us. If men can then enlist in the female fitness test, I think that's a bunch of weak men, is it not? So how the hell are we going to defend our nation? And what kind of message does that send to our adversaries? What kind of message does that send to our poor allies that are now watching Australia go, right, they can't defend themselves for shit, and now even has their ADF adopting woke ideology? God, I'd hate to be America looking at us. That's all I got to say there. And I'm just going to get into this one point. All right, from the recent court case, the Giggle vs. Tiggle court case, from that recent video of the sex discrimination officer not being able to basically say that males cannot get pregnant, I have two theories here, let's say. One, There are just some people in this society that are just blatantly stupid. However, can you be that stupid to absolutely ignore biological realities? I don't know. Or can they be? Can someone actually be that stupid to believe that? Or two, if I just don't know if people can be actually that stupid. They might be. But two, who is stoking this division? Seriously, it's left versus right more than ever we're divided. It's this woke ideology versus conservatives more than ever divided. Who is stoking this division? Who is putting this stupid rhetoric out there? Who is allowing this to happen in our defense force? Who is allowing this to happen in our courts? Who is allowing this for our legislation to basically be rewritten by Julie Gillard and basically scrap what a woman is? Who is allowing this to happen? Because I think it is all engineered. I think that someone's pulling the strings here to make us more divided. So that's why I wanted to make this video today, guys, because I just wanted to look past all of the bureaucracy that people are pushing. I didn't want to get caught up in anybody else's shit going back and forth. Let's just say it how it is. Who is stoking this division? Right? Because while we get caught up going, oh my god, this happened in court today. How can you be that stupid? That's exactly what they want. They want us to be divided. Right? But that is the end of today's episode, guys. Let me know if you like rants like this. It's very therapeutic to get it out there, but let me know if you guys like it, or you just want some structure because you like love. You gotta have some structure somewhere. But let me know, and also, let's stop playing around. Let's actually dig deep into these topics. So starting this Thursday, we are launching a 4-part investigative series. The first episode is looking into whether Australia can actually defend itself in a global conflict if one breaks out. If China comes knocking on our door tomorrow, what is our actual reality? We are also looking into the foreign bases, specifically the US bases in our country. We are also looking into who owns the land beneath our feet and around where our military bases actually are, and going super in depth in these topics. We are calling out a lot of people, so make sure you're there this Thursday. I hope to see you all then. So thanks, guys.